So this powerful poetic image, I think, reveals this sort of interesting contrast with the birthday party, where there is this sort of articulacy in inarticulacy in the birthday party. You know, when people are inarticulate, that is when they are ironically being the most expressive of authenticity. But here, Blanche's linguistic power, I think, even though there's this suggestion of her losing that, she has this final moment of a kind of verbal prowess that I think captures the tragic nature of her state, that this last source of redemption has been completely removed from her. And then her final language here, she says, key favour Stanley and Shaw have tied an old tin can to the tail of a kite. And so again, this metaphor that she uses, articulate about the honesty and emotional intensity of her particular experience, that she's having this final outpouring of powerful appreciation, of powerful linguistic prowess, because she is articulating the crisis that is going on in her life, her loss of any hope of redemption. Mitch stares at her dumbly and then just says, "You lied to me, Blanche." So this vision here of her linguistic beauty and then Mitch's mute reaction to it, I think, shows how he cannot appreciate her vision of reality and its significance, and I think she allies him with Stanley in that respect. And yes, she did lie. Don't say I lied to you. Never inside. I didn't lie in my heart. You know, the authenticity of her feelings is not what's in question here, but it is this failure to be connected deeply with the factual content of reality that ultimately is the source of her downfall in Mitch's estimations. A vendor comes around the corner. She's a blind Mexican woman in a dark shawl carrying bunches of those gaudy tin flowers that lower class Mexicans display at funerals. So again, we've got this symbol, the Mexican flower seller, the fact that she is blind, I think possibly also allies with Blanche. She cannot connect deeply with reality, but ironically here is the one that sees beyond reality to Blanche's fate and becomes a kind of prognostication of her ominous outcome. You know, this Mexican flower seller is a symbol almost like the Grim Reaper of death and of her loss and psychic death, and calls this flores para los muertos, flores. She's, you know, again, this motif of the flower seller functions like the Grim Reaper in this play, betokening Blanche's psychic demise, her mental death. She put, what? Somebody outside. I lived in a house where dying old women remembered their dead men. So there's this, again, this suggestion of precipitating crisis, of a loss of reality, because her content of her mind is disconnected from the surroundings. And she talks about family, death, and love. And the polka tune then fades in. It shows us again the crisis is precipitating. And this final set from this page is this sense of mental degeneration in Blanche, the loss of her family and power and their past and their history is revealed through this death symbolised in the flower seller. She says as if to herself, crumble and fade in regrets, recriminations, if you'd done this it wouldn't have cost me that. So again, she's collapsing into the past here, you know, potential little fragments of recollections from her family strife. And then the Mexican woman's call, corones para los muertos, again functions as this almost choral function here that takes over almost from the music, but the music obviously joins in as well, so we have this kind of symphony of stage effects here offering the choral function of Blanche's internal state. And then it carries on here, legacies and other things such as bloodstained pillow slips. And living, you know, this becomes almost like a kind of modernist, a stream of consciousness in true kind of high modernist style, as Blanche's mind metaphorically, literally unravels in the play. Blanche says the opposite is desire. She's talking about here death. So do you wonder? How could you possibly wonder? Not far from Belrive, before we had lost Belrive, was a camp where they trained young soldiers. On Saturday night they were going to town drunk. So desire is the supposedly life-affirming force opposed to death itself. You know, the eros being the solution to and counterweight for Thanatos. But this life-affirming force here, I think, actually is shown to be destructive, and that's the overall message of this play. So the Eros and Thanatos are kind of collapsed together in the play. all that's different here is her isolation and her failure to adapt. So we think of this here, this supposed desire. Desire itself is some way not necessarily the issue in this play. It's our failure to understand it and to adapt to its drives and its circumstances, and to be able to consciously control it, that makes it so destructive. But it isn't in and of itself a problem, I think, in this moment. It is supposed to be the redemptive quality to death. In these lines here, there's the sense of a confessional. She attempts to overcome death with sort of indiscriminate desire here. She talks about her past. On the way back, they would stagger onto my lawn and call, "Blanche, Blanche." The deaf old lady, remaining, suspected nothing, but sometimes I slipped outside to answer their calls. Later, the paddy wagon would gather them up like daisies the long way home. And so she throws herself, in this recollection, into her kind of lascivious, salacious behaviour with soldiers, I think as a way to fill the void, to overcome the suggestion of death that is resident within her past. The Mexican woman turns, slowly drifts back off with her soft, mournful cries. Blanche goes to the dresser and leans forward on her. After a moment, Mitch rises and follows her purposefully. This movement, again, shows a change in Mitch, that his control is lost, that her control is lost, and Mitch is shifted into this mode of brutality. The polka music fades away, I think, because we aren't now in Blanche's mind. He places her hands on her waist and tries to turn her about, and there's a kind of irony here that contrasts with his hesitancy when he's actually, showing real romantic interest in her. He's much more decisive when he's about to be violent. She says, "What do you want?" Fumbling to embrace it shows us how unskilled he is in this kind of base sort of animalistic mode of connecting with her, what I've been missing all summer. So he's talking again about sexuality here and desire and the destructive quality of desire, which is ironic, that we have this mention of Blanche's desire up above in the play, and then suddenly here's Mitch's desire, what I've been missing all summer, that levels him and equalises him with men like Stanley. Actually, before we know that Stanley is this violent. And then Blanche, in her desperation, says, "Then marry me, Mitch. I don't think I want to marry you anymore." No. So here, his force foreshadows Stanley's, that she wants him to do it in the right way. I would marry you. I would love you. And he simply says no, and he's quite happy to just take, in violent physical terms, sexual satisfaction from her. And he says, "You're not clean enough to bring in the house with my mother." So there's this bitter irony involved in this reversal, is that she's constantly cleaning herself. She's constantly attempting to purify herself. And so this is a kind of real deep hurt for her. She shouts, she tries to scare him off. "Get out of it quick before I start screaming fire." Her throat is tightening with hysteria. She screams fire and gets rid of him, and he still remains staring. She suddenly rushes to the window with its big blue square of the soft summer light and cries wildly. So there's this sense, I think, of the light appearing a degeneration in the imagery, but the blue square, again, that blue light and the blue piano, it's that encroaching sense of reality. So in the final lines, fire, 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 is this great sense of panic, destruction. And with a startled gasp, Mitch turns and goes out the outer door, clatters awkwardly down the steps and around the corner of the building. Blanche staggers back from the window and falls to her knees. The distant piano is slow and blue. So her physical submission shows us her isolation in actual reality, and then the piano music represents that re-encroaching sense of reality at the end of the scene.